For the town of Dundas, Ontario, the 1920s brought a new problem in transportation: the need to connect with the neighboring city of Hamilton. The two major modes of passenger transport in 19th century Dundas were the horse-drawn omnibus and the street railway. By 1920, both had become distinctly outdated, and both would disappear from the landscape entirely before the end of the decade. They were replaced by hired automobiles and buses, modern machines which took advantage of the newly built stretch of Highway 8 between Hamilton and Dundas to carry passengers between the two cities. Over the course of the decade, Dundas would remodel itself to accommodate these new technologies in transportation, shedding the old infrastructure which had remained largely unchanged since the 19th century. Before the completion of Highway 8, the main public conveyance between the two communities was the Hamilton and Dundas Railway. It trundled its way slowly along the tracks, which once extended down Hat Street and toward the Aberdeen rail yards. This line had been operating in various forms since 1879, but even by the turn of the century, it had a reputation for unreliability and malfunction. It would take an average of 40 minutes to complete the 7-mile trip between the two towns. With the highway newly paved and open to automobile traffic, a new service quickly emerged to rival the railway. Fleets of unregulated touring cars known as jitneys, a slang term for a nickel, which was their fare, began operating as private taxicabs. The rickety machines shuttled people back and forth day and night, but the service was held in ill repute. It was seen as a speedy and dangerous means of travel which encouraged the intoxicated adventures of young people in the big city. A more efficient and more public-friendly means of transportation had to be found. Mr. James L. Greitmeyer of Dundas recognized the potential of a motorized bus line which could carry more passengers than could be packed into a touring car. His first bus, designed and built himself in 1920, was named the Blue Jay. Specially designed for comfort, it had a stove at the front to warm passengers on the trip. By 1921, the operation had expanded into 3 buses, comprising the Blue Jay line, which made regular trips between Hamilton and Dundas at a cost of 25 cents. Yet another bus was added by 1922. After a public contest to choose a new name, the expanded line was christened Highway King. Greitmeyer operated out of the old drill shed on Hat Street, which had been converted into a garage and bus depot. The jitneys and bus lines absorbed so many passengers that they quickly drove the already antiquated rail line out of business. Its last run was on September 5, 1923, but not before some catastrophic run-ins. Luckily, none of the passengers were seriously injured in this dramatic crash which occurred on the morning of Friday, July 28, 1922. Legislation in 1924 cracked down on the jitneys in an attempt to stop what was seen as an unsafe and unregulated operation. Free of competition, the Highway King line prospered. Buses like the Highway King No. 5 were vast improvements over the original Blue Jay model. They were meant to look modern, stylish, and inviting. By 1929, Greitmeyer had a fleet of 14 buses operating between Dundas and Hamilton. The business would be sold to Canada Coach Lines in 1931 and taken over by the Hamilton Transport Company in 1955.